The early 20th century hummed with a deceptive tranquility. European empires, vast and powerful, confidently surveyed their global possessions. Beneath the surface, however, a current of unrest churned. The great powers of Europe, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, France and Great Britain found themselves locked in a complex web of alliances. Nationalism surged through Europe, breeding suspicion and rivalry between nations. That fateful spark came on a sunny morning in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie embarked on a visit to the city. The Archduke's presence was met with simmering resentment from Serbian nationalists. A group of young conspirators, members of the Black Hand, plotted to assassinate the Archduke. As the Archduke's motorcade made its way through the crowded streets, Gavrilo Princip seized his opportunity. With a pistol in hand, he fired 2 shots, fatally wounding the Archduke and his wife. The assassination sent shockwaves across Europe. Within weeks, Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia, leading to war. Austria-Hungary's declaration of war against Serbia was not an isolated event. Germany, eager to assert its power, stood firmly behind Austria-Hungary. Russia, bound by a treaty to protect Serbia, mobilized its vast army. The intricate web of alliances dragged Europe into the abyss. With dizzying speed, the armies of Europe mobilized. Germany launched a lightning attack on France through neutral Belgium. The German army swept through Belgium, leaving a trail of destruction. France mounted a desperate defense, and Great Britain joined the fight. The war descended into a bloody stalemate. The Schlieffen Plan, named after its architect, was a bold gamble. Its aim was to knock France out of the war swiftly before Russia could fully mobilize. The invasion of Belgium outraged international opinion and provided Great Britain with the justification to declare war on Germany. The German advance stalled and the war bogged down into a brutal war of attrition. The dream of a swift victory evaporated. The initial clashes gave way to trench warfare. Stretching for hundreds of miles, a labyrinthine network of trenches became the defining feature of the Western Front. Life in the trenches was a horrific ordeal, with soldiers enduring unimaginable conditions. The psychological toll of trench warfare was immense. The Battle of the Somme epitomized the horrors of trench warfare. Intended to break the stalemate, the Somme became a byword for the futility and brutality of the war. British troops went over the top on July 1, 1916, met by a storm of machine gun fire. By the end of the first day, the British Army had suffered nearly 60,000 casualties. The battle dragged on for months, a grinding war of attrition. At Verdun, the German army launched a massive offensive in February 1916. Verdun became a battle of national survival for France. The battle raged around the forts and hills, a relentless struggle of attack and counterattack. The artillery bombardments transformed the landscape into a lunar wasteland. Verdun, though a tactical victory for the French, came at a terrible price. Dawn in the trenches broke with a chilling dampness. Soldiers, roused from their fitful sleep, began the dreary routine of life on the front lines. Each day was a precarious dance between monotonous routine and the ever-present threat of death. Days were filled with tasks essential to survival, with the constant fear of sudden artillery bombardment. The trenches were a battleground against disease and deprivation. The constant dampness and lack of hygiene created a breeding ground for disease. Food was scarce and of poor quality, leading to malnutrition. The psychological toll was equally devastating, with many soldiers experiencing shell shock. Shell shock, a term coined during the First World War, was a new and poorly understood phenomenon. Soldiers suffering from shell shock exhibited a wide range of symptoms. Treatment for shell shock varied widely and was often ineffective. The stigma surrounding mental illness meant many soldiers were too ashamed to seek help. The invisible wounds of war often proved to be as debilitating and long-lasting as the physical ones. The First World War witnessed a chilling evolution in the tools of warfare. Machine guns mowed down attacking troops with terrifying efficiency. The invention of the tank added a new dimension of horror to the battlefield. Artillery became increasingly sophisticated and deadly. The First World War became a symphony of destruction. Perhaps the most chilling innovation of the First World War was the introduction of chemical warfare. In April 1915, the German army unleashed chlorine gas at the Second Battle of Ypres. The effects were horrific, with soldiers gasping for air and convulsing. Over the course of the war, both sides deployed a variety of chemical weapons. The fear of an invisible, agonizing death added a new dimension of terror to the battlefield. Gas masks, though effective, were often in short supply. The legacy of chemical warfare would linger long after the guns fell silent. Section 3. Innovation in the skies, the rise of air power. The First World War witnessed the birth of air power as a decisive force in warfare. At the outset of the conflict, airplanes were still in their infancy, fragile machines used primarily for reconnaissance and observation. However, it soon became clear that these flying machines had the potential to revolutionize warfare. Pilots, initially tasked with observing enemy troop movements and directing artillery fire, soon engaged in aerial combat, their flimsy aircraft armed with machine guns and bombs. Dogfights, duels in the sky between daring pilots, captured the imagination of the public, transforming these aerial gladiators into heroes of the war. The development of more powerful engines, faster aircraft, and improved weapon systems led to the emergence of specialized aircraft such as fighters, bombers, and ground attack planes. The skies above the trenches became another battleground where daring pilots dueling for supremacy. Airplanes played an increasingly important role in bombing enemy positions, disrupting supply lines, and providing close air support to ground troops. The development of strategic bombing, though in its infancy, foreshadowed the devastating air campaigns of future conflicts. The First World War, though fought primarily on the ground and in the trenches, witnessed the transformative potential of air power, forever altering the nature of warfare. Section 1. The Home Front. A nation mobilized. While the trenches of the Western Front became synonymous with the horrors of the First World War, the conflict's reach extended far beyond the battlefields. Across Europe and indeed the world, the war effort demanded unprecedented sacrifices from civilian populations. The home front became an extension of the battleground as nations mobilized their industries, resources, and citizens to support the war effort. Governments implemented rationing, limiting the consumption of essential goods such as food, fuel, and clothing to ensure adequate supplies for the troops on the front lines. Women, traditionally relegated to domestic roles, stepped into factories and shipyards, taking on jobs previously deemed unsuitable for their gender. The image of the munitionette, her face smudged with grease and her brow furrowed in concentration as she assembled shells, became a powerful symbol of female contribution to the war effort. Propaganda posters, plastered on walls and billboards, exhorted citizens to do their bit for the war effort, urging them to enlist, conserve resources, and maintain morale. The war permeated every aspect of daily life, transforming societies and economies in unprecedented ways. The line between soldier and civilian blurred, as the entire nation was called upon to contribute to the struggle for victory. The shadow of grief, loss, and remembrance. As the war dragged on, year after agonizing year, the casualty lists grew longer, casting a pall of grief over nations. The telegram, delivered by a somber-faced messenger, became a harbinger of sorrow, delivering news that shattered families and communities. The sheer scale of loss was unprecedented, millions of lives extinguished, leaving behind a void that could never truly be filled. Mothers mourned sons, wives mourned husbands, and children grew up fatherless. their lives forever marked by the absence of those lost in the conflict. War memorials erected in towns and villages across the warring nations became poignant reminders of the sacrifices made. Their names etched in stone a testament to the enduring impact of the war. The poppy, a delicate flower that bloomed amidst the desolation of the battlefields, emerged as a symbol of remembrance, a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring legacy of loss. The war's impact on mental health was profound, as returning soldiers grappled with the invisible wounds of shell shock, haunted by the horrors they had witnessed and the comrades they had lost. The psychological scars of war, often hidden from view, left an enduring legacy of trauma and suffering, a stark reminder that the true cost of conflict extended far beyond the battlefield. Shifting sands social change and the seeds of discord. The First World War, beyond its human cost, catalyzed profound social and political change. The pre-war social order, with rigid class structures and gender roles, was shaken by the conflict. Women, proving their mettle in various roles, began demanding greater rights. The war chipped away at traditional gender roles, paving the way for women's suffrage. The conflict sowed seeds of social unrest and political radicalization. The Bolshevik Revolution, sparked by the war's impact, ushered in communist ideology. The war's end brought collapsing empires, redrawn boundaries, and new nations, but also resentment and instability. The Treaty of Versailles imposed harsh penalties on Germany, fueling future conflict. The war shattered the illusion of stability, leaving disillusionment and uncertainty. The seeds of future conflicts, sown in the ashes of WW, awaited time to germinate. A world transformed, the legacy of the Great War. The guns fell silent on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918. Armistice Day, as it would forever be known, marked the end of hostilities in the Great War, a conflict that had engulfed the world in its fiery embrace for over 4 long years. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief, tempered by the sobering realization of the war's devastating toll. Millions lay dead, their lives cut short on distant battlefields or extinguished by disease and deprivation. Empires crumbled, their once mighty armies shattered, their economies in ruins. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, formally ended the war, but failed to heal the wounds that ran so deep. Germany, burdened with crippling reparations and blamed for the war's outbreak, seethed with resentment, the seeds of future conflict sown in the ashes of defeat. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman and Russian empires, once vast and powerful, lay in ruins, replaced by a patchwork of new nations grappling with the challenges of independence and instability. The world that emerged from the ashes of the Great War was forever changed. The conflict had accelerated technological advancements, ushering in an era of unprecedented industrial and military might. But it had also shattered the illusion of progress, revealing the dark heart of modernity and the depths of human cruelty. The scars of war, both physical and psychological, would linger for generations, a stark reminder of the enduring cost of conflict. Echoes of the past. Lessons unlearned. The Great War, hailed as the war to end all wars, proved a tragic misnomer. The peace that followed was fragile, haunted by nationalism, economic instability, and political extremism. The lessons of the war seemed to fade, drowned out by a world struggling to rebuild. The Treaty of Versailles, meant to prevent future conflicts, became a source of grievance. Germany, humiliated by its terms, chafed under reparations and territorial losses. The League of Nations, created to foster cooperation, proved toothless. Within a generation, the world was engulfed in another devastating conflict. The Second World War demonstrated the enduring power of nationalism and the tragic consequences of unchecked aggression. The lessons of the Great War, though seemingly forgotten, were etched in blood once more, a reminder that the quest for peace is a perpetual struggle.